Coming up on 5 Minute News. 300,000 tweets flagged over election disinformation. Amazon opens online pharmacy, shaking up another industry. And Trump rushes to sell oil rights in Arctic wildlife refuge. It's Wednesday, November 18. I'm Anthony Davis. The CEO of Twitter says the social media site flagged some 300,000 tweets as part of efforts to combat disinformation in the period around the 2020 election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg were testifying yesterday at a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing called to question their company's actions around the closely contested election. Senators are deeply divided by party over the integrity and results of the election itself. Prominent Republican senators, including the Judiciary Committee chairman, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, have refused to knock down Trump's unfounded claims of voting irregularities and fraud, even as misinformation disputing Biden's victory has flourished online. It's been ruled that Philadelphia election officials did not improperly block Donald Trump's campaign from observing the counting of mail-in ballots, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled 5-2 on Tuesday, a major blow to the president's already flailing legal efforts. Zuckerberg and Dorsey promised lawmakers last month they would aggressively guard their platforms from being manipulated by foreign governments or used to incite violence around the election results, and they followed through with high-profile steps that angered Trump and his supporters. Twitter and Facebook have both slapped a misinformation label on some content from Trump, most notably his assertions linking voting by mail to fraud. On Monday, Twitter flagged Trump's tweet proclaiming, "I won the election," with a note saying official sources called this election differently. Between October 27 and November 11, he said about 300,000 tweets were labelled for content that was disputed and potentially misleading, representing 0.2% of all US election-related tweets sent during the period. Facebook also moved 2 days after the election to ban a large group called Stop the Steal that Trump supporters were using to organize protests against the vote count. There's no evidence that social media giants are biased against conservative news, posts or other material, or that they favour one side of political debate over another, researchers have found. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has fired the director of the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency for pushing back against baseless rumours of election fraud. Trump tweeted, "Chris Krebs has been terminated." Krebs had indicated he expected to be fired. Last week, his agency released a statement refuting claims of widespread voter fraud. Amazon opened an online pharmacy on Tuesday that allows customers to order medication or prescription refills and have them delivered to their front door in a couple of days. The potential impact of Amazon's arrival in the pharmaceutical space rippled through the sector immediately. The stocks of CVS, Walgreens and Rite Aid all tumbled yesterday. The big chains rely on their pharmacies for a steady flow of shoppers, who may also grab a snack or shampoo or groceries on the way out. All have upped online services and touted their abilities to deliver prescriptions and other goods as the COVID-19 pandemic has pushed more consumers to stay home. But Amazon has mastered these things, and its online store is infinitely larger, with millions of loyal shoppers already buying books, TVs, and just about anything else. Amazon has a history of disruption. Launched in 1995 as an online bookstore, it pushed other booksellers to sell online. The company said its online pharmacy will offer commonly prescribed medications in the US, including creams, pills, as well as medications that need to stay refrigerated, like insulin. It won't ship medications that have a high risk of being abused, like some opioids. Most insurance is accepted, Amazon said, but Prime members who don't have insurance can also buy generic or brand-name drugs from Amazon for a discount. Amazon has eyed the healthcare industry for some time. 2 years ago, it spent $750 million to buy online pharmacy PillPack, which organizes medication in packets by what time and day they need to be taken. Amazon said that PillPack will continue, focusing on shipping medication to people with chronic conditions. Starting on Tuesday, oil and gas companies can pick which parts of Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge they're interested in drilling. It's the latest push by the Trump administration to auction off development rights in the pristine landscape before President-elect Joe Biden takes office. The official call for nominations launches a 30-day comment period. It will also allow the Bureau of Land Management to move forward with a lease sale, which it must announce 30 days in advance. The exact timing is not clear, but it raises the possibility that a lease sale might happen just days before Biden's inauguration. In a dramatic shift after nearly 4 decades of protections, a Republican-led Congress in 2017 approved legislation that opened up part of the refuge to oil development. It called for 2 lease sales in the coastal section of the Arctic Refuge within 7 years, with the first one to be held by the end of 2021. But conservation groups are blasting the Trump administration's decision to push forward with the sale now, just a couple of months before Inauguration Day, saying it's rushing the process to open up one of the nation's most iconic and sacred landscapes to oil drilling. The Arctic Refuge's coastal plain is about 1.6 million acres, an area roughly the size of Delaware, that makes up about 8% of the vast refuge. It's a place where caribou migrate, polar bears den, and migratory birds feed. It's also an area believed to hold billions of barrels of untapped oil. Trustees for Alaska is among several groups and a coalition of 15 states that filed lawsuits earlier this year aimed at derailing drilling plans for the Arctic Refuge. The suits are still winding their way through the court system. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate, and review online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health, and climate, delivering independent, unbiased, and essential world news daily.